Hey, onboarding new worship team members can be a tricky process. But today I'd love to talk to you about some of the mistakes that I've made along the way and also the process that I've landed on. My name is Brendan. I've been leading worship for about 15 years here in my hometown. So I've got a lot of experience in making mistakes. Let's just say that. But first things first, I just want to talk to you about simply what I would not do. And this comes from firsthand experience. I would never do open auditions, and that might be a bit of a hot take on this topic, but I'll tell you exactly why. Probably about 7 years ago, I had a call for open auditions. We made announcements on a Sunday morning for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 weeks for people to send a video to me directly, singing or playing along with one of their favorite worship songs. Um, Out of roughly, I think, about 20 videos, only two of them made it to the second round. Two, maybe three of them. It might have been three. Um, so yeah, through this process, though, some of my closest friends at the time, who I honestly didn't expect to audition, did, and I ended up having to turn them down. Um, as leaders, that's a position that while we absolutely will most likely be in those kind of difficult situations from time to time, if there's anything we can do to avoid them, we should probably do it. I'll tell you why. As worship leaders, if you've got any kind of personal conflict, regardless of, like, when I told these people, they accepted it super well, everything was fine. It's still awkward. There's no way that you get around that awkward kind of feeling. And as a worship leader on a Sunday morning, especially anytime you're leading worship, if there's any kind of tension between you and the person or people that you're leading, that's just not a great position to be in. So with everything in our power, I think it's important to kind of avoid those types of things. It's not going to be every time. It's not going to be perfect. But if we can avoid it, let's avoid it. Um, so yeah, a few of these people I had to tell no, simply because, like, they didn't match our style of worship per se. Um, yeah, it was just not a great process. I would not recommend it. Um, what I would recommend is, I don't really have a term for it, but what I do is I kind of keep my eyes and my ears open. Like, who is at the church that either I hear about from somebody else, hear about from a current team member that they either sing or play an instrument, and how good they are. Do they have anything that's actually recorded, that I can listen to without even talking to them? That's really like the ideal situation. And why I say that is because anytime that someone's recommended by somebody else, what that shows me is, like, that's a great green flag. That's not a red flag. That's a green flag, because it shows me that the person they're talking about isn't isn't at a place where they're going to be like, "Hey, I sing," or "Hey, I play. I'd love to be on the team." Somebody else is bragging about what they heard or what they saw. That's kind of what, at least for me, has worked really well. And in a perfect world, for me anyway, in a perfect world, that's how every team member would be added. But hey, we all know we don't live in a perfect world. So, what do I do normally then? If I don't hear about somebody, generally I have like a 3-step process. The first step in that process is, if somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, I would love to be on the worship team," my first response is, "How long have you been coming to church?" More often than not, it's their second or third week. And that always blows my mind, how confident some people are, that they're just like, "Hey, I've been here for only a couple of weeks and I'd love to be a part of the worship team." To me, that kind of I don't think that that's necessarily a red flag, but it does help me be a little more firm in my stance of, "How long have you been attending church?" My rule of thumb is a minimum of 6 months, because I think that 6 month mark really shows a level of dedication, and that this person believes in the mission of the local church. The worship team at times, if you've been leading for any length of time, that sometimes people want to be on the worship team simply because They think they can sing. They think they can play. They want to be in front of people. That's an ugly truth. That's part of the business. That's just the way it is. So that 6 months really is a good measure. Are you dedicated, and do you believe in the mission of the church that you're attending? The second thing, so if they make it past that 6 month mark, I usually have them come to our Thursday rehearsals. In the past, we used to have a rehearsal every Thursday night. Now we've moved to 2 Thursdays a month, and we have one rehearsal on the first Thursday of every month, where we either rehearse for the following Sunday services in the morning, or the following Sunday for the monthly worship service that we have. And why I do this is it allows them to see how rehearsal flows. It allows them to interact with the team. You as a leader can watch the dynamics of relationships and see how this person could potentially fit into the team. And, for me, the amount of time that you have them attend your rehearsals really is up to you. I like to at least have a couple months of that to really get a solid idea. Are they a good fit for the team? And then lastly, I have them do an actual audition. Can they sing or play with a click track? Because ultimately, if they can't do that, they're not going to be able to be on the team. That's just a hard truth for us as a team. We use clicks and we use multi-tracks with cues, and it's a necessity for whoever's playing or leading to be able to play or sing with a click. That has to be, part of the audition. So yeah, it might be 1 or 2 songs, but generally I'll stick to something very familiar or like one of their favorite worship songs. So it's not something they're uncomfortable with necessarily. You can see like, oh, hey, you know what? They might have missed 1 or 2 cues or missed a couple notes, but there's some definite talent and capability here. It's not a hard yes or no based on, did they get it perfect? Come on, I make mistakes every week. So, it's nothing to do with that. It's more, can they do that? Is there potential to improve to be regularly good with playing or singing with a click track? All right. So all of that's my process, and that's kind of the logistics of it. But, for you, like maybe the question still remains, will they actually be a good fit for the team? And I honestly think that question should be at the top of your list when you consider everything else. Will this person be a good fit for the team? Because rest assured, any time that you add someone to your team, the dynamic of your entire team will change. That is a fact. There is no way around that, regardless if the person's a perfect fit or if there's some bumps along the way and they eventually fit. The team dynamic changes. That's just the way it is. And that's not unique to worship teams. That is for every team across the board. Anytime you add somebody, the dynamic changes. As worship leaders, we are responsible not only to lead our teams, but in leading them, we're responsible for that team dynamic. We're responsible for the team health, the team unity, and if adding someone affects them, that unity and health in a negative way, we need to be extremely careful with that. And some of that, that comes with trust from the team members, especially if, so-and-so on your team recommended this person. Ultimately, leaders, it's up to us on whether or not they should be a part of the team. So yes, that part of that is the team trusting us as leaders to make the right call. Always be mindful of personalities, spiritual maturity, musical ability. And that's not to say, again, is this person the best musician you've ever met in your life? Rarely is that a question inside the worship team world. Spiritual maturity, personalities, can they accept correction and criticism in a positive way? Those are the kinds of things we need to take into account when adding someone to the team. Adding somebody can either be the smooth, amazing, easy process, or it can be a speed bump the size of Mount Everest. Take it slow. Always be intentional every step of the way. If you need to have these one-on-one conversations with the people that you're adding to the team about expectations, about, how much do you practice each week? Do you prepare outside of a Sunday morning? Those are the kinds of things that you need to be aware of and mindful of whenever you're adding somebody to the team. And, I know this process is what works for us and what has worked for us over the last 7, 8 years. I know it's not a one size fits all, but some of these principles are universal and can be applied to any worship team, any team really. But yes, so be mindful of it. If you've got questions, if you need more information, I'm happy to spend time with you one-on-one. I'm happy to answer questions if you leave me a comment on the video. But yes, please, 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 if you've got questions, reach out to me. I am very passionate about helping worship teams succeed. That's part of the reason that I started this channel is I want to see other worship teams have the success, unity, and love for each other that I experience every week with our team. I'm extremely blessed. So with that, will we get it right every time? Absolutely not. But we can always learn from our mistakes. So again, if you have any questions, leave me a comment, reach out to me somehow, and I am more than happy to spend time helping you and your team grow together. God bless.